It can take a victim survivor of domestic violence many years and many times to leave. Some research suggests that up to 7 or more times to leave, go back, or leave, take them back due to lots of different complicated reasons. And so this is my own story about my first relationship, my marriage to the father of my children. So we met when we were teenagers. We did have a baby soon after that. Probably about 3 or 4 years into the relationship was the first time I called the police. It was the first time that I felt the need to call the police for my own protection. And we'd had an argument because there wasn't enough money for him to buy drugs. And we were on our way back from the shops and he got out of the car because he was angry. I tried 3 times to get him to get back into the car. He didn't. And I just knew that when I got home that I would be waiting for him to get home, and I knew he was going to be angry. And he was. He came in the door very, very angry. And I just we had 2 small children at the time, and I just wanted to take them and get into the car and go to my mum's because I was scared, I was stressed and anxious, I was fearful, I didn't want the kids to see that, I didn't want the anger and the tension, and I just wanted to go to my mum's. And he blocked me. He wouldn't let me leave. And I called the police for help. And they asked me if I wanted to put an AVO on him. And I actually said to them, no, like, that's a bit silly if we're still living here together. I guess I felt like an AVO was if you were separating and you needed that protection. And I didn't need I didn't feel like I needed the protection. I just wanted to give us both a chance to just have some space, cool down, just sort of, I don't know, I was really, really overwhelmed by what had happened. And the police they did support us to just leave and go to mum's. And they also reminded us that they were mandatory reporters and would have to report to child protection, which scared me more than him, because my first thought was I'm not getting my kids taken away. So they supported me to leave in the car with the kids. I did go up to mum's for the night, came back the next day. I wasn't going to leave because I didn't want there to be a separation. I just needed that space and I wasn't sure what else to do. That was the first sort of big argument that had escalated into where I was fearful. And then after that, any time that he became angry or aggressive, or, I started to ask him not to speak to me that way or not to call me those names, etc., he would taunt me with, well, if you call the police, they'll ring Docs and then Docs will take your kids. And so it would be another 7 years before I rang the police for help. And then when I did, it was, can't even remember what the argument was about, but he got angry a lot. He was using drugs at the time, so especially if he was coming down or hanging out, or we didn't have the money or the dealer didn't have any, that's when he would really sort of get angry and take it out on me. And so this time he escalated. He threatened to break my jaw. He slapped me in the face. To start with, I rang a family member of his to come and get him. It wasn't about ringing the police and having him taken away. I just wanted it to stop. I wanted to be safe. I didn't want to be scared. I didn't want this tension. So his family member had come over first, was unable to get him to leave the home. And so in a little bit after he slapped me, I rang the police. But what I did was I didn't feel like it was bad enough to ring 000. So I rang the local station, and it actually took police 45 minutes for them to get to my home. And I had to ring them again because he started saying to me, when the police get here, he was going to harm them as well. So I rang back and I said, look, it's getting worse. Like, I'm really scared. He's now saying he's going to hurt any police that come. Like, I actually need help. Now, with that time, I did agree to the AVO because that was the first time. It wasn't the first time he physically hit me, actually, but I guess it had gotten to a point where it just was too much. And then what happened was a couple of days later, he had rang me, even though it essentially was a no contact, no approach AVO. We didn't really have that knowledge back then. I didn't really understand what AVOs were all about and what was going on. So he had rang and he was begging to come back. He apologized, said he would get help, that he'd seek, counseling to get off drugs for his mental health. And I wasn't so sure. We'd started having issues on and off because I was doing the bulk of most of the parenting, the housework, the cooking, the cleaning, and I was also working. I had started working and I had enrolled in uni, so I didn't feel like I had much support from him. I had big goals and big dreams in life, and he just wanted to go out and hang with his mates and just do whatever he felt like. It didn't feel like he wanted to be in a family. And so I had kind of tried to suggest that he start counseling while we're apart, and he said that it would be it wouldn't be worthwhile for us to work on our marriage while living apart. And the more he talked about it, the more, and said, I was breaking up the family and I needed to give him another chance, I just really felt cornered and like I needed to give him another chance. And I guess there was part of me that did believe that he would change, because I thought the police and the AVO would have been a wake-up call, him being arrested. He did plead guilty to assaulting me, and I went to court with him to vary the AVO. To start with, I wanted to just drop the AVO, but by then, New South Wales had brought in the legislation where police could apply for the AVO without the victim agreeing to. And the judge had asked me, I had to stand up and speak to the judge and say that I wanted to vary the AVO so that he could come back home. I did feel like I was, I didn't feel like it was entirely my choice, but I was scared, I was stressed, I was overwhelmed, I was confused, I didn't know. And I remember the judge asking him, was he on substances or alcohol at the time that he threatened to break my jaw. And when he said no, the judge expressed big concern that he was stone cold sober and could make a threat like that to his partner. He got a 6-month good behaviour bond and the AVO stayed in place, but it was varied so that he could be at the home and be in contact. So another time after that was when he had wanted to be intimate and I had declined. He got so angry that he went into the bathroom to have a shower, and he was punching the back of the bathroom door and just yelling and screaming all sorts of horrendous things, that I just grabbed the 5 children, ushered them into the car. I got them all out there and I just drove off. We literally had the clothes on our backs. I didn't pack anything. I was just so scared and just needed to get these 5 kids into the car and get us away, because I knew when he got out of the shower or came out of the bathroom that it was only going to get worse. I called 1-800-RESPECT as I was driving away, and they said that they could try and get me into a refuge, me and the kids. Unfortunately, they were not able to find a refuge with space for me and 5 children all up and down the coast. Then they did suggest that they could put me up into a motel, and to start with, I agreed, and then reality set in. I have work, the kids have school, we have no clothes, we have no food, we have no money, I don't have a plan. And so I didn't know what to do. And once again, I went back home because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know about the support options out there. And in the meantime, I had actually enrolled in uni and started working. So my uni degree is in community development because I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. I wanted to help families. I wanted to work in community services and welfare. And I discovered that I wasn't just miserable and unhappy and causing the problems. I was actually living domestic violence. And when I became employed at my children's local school, I started speaking to other women who were, strong, independent, who had freedom to do what they wanted, who had interests and hobbies outside of what they were allowed to do things. And that really started changing my view and, opened my eyes to it. So it came back that time. Then we did end up buying a house together, and it really got worse. And look, you always hope that when maybe if you have another baby or get married or move, that it's sort of like a fresh start and that things will get better. And they just didn't. It just got worse. And it just got to a point where I just said to him, I'm miserable. You must be miserable. This is not working. And he was sitting on the lounge at the time. And I'd brought it up a couple of times. And, you know, how do you get a grown man to leave when you cannot physically move him out of your home? And he would then say to me, and I started saying to him, will you stay in the house and I'll find somewhere else? And then he would say that I wouldn't be leaving with the kids. And there were lots of different, there were different times in between that, but these are the main ones. So on this occasion, he was sitting on the lounge just looking at the TV, and I had said to him, I can't do this anymore. And I said, can you pack your things and leave? And he said no. And so I said, that's okay. Next time you go to your mate's house, I'll just pack your stuff and take it down there. And without even flinching or looking away from the TV, he continued staring straight ahead and said, if you do that, I'll burn this house down with you and the kids in it. And I thought, well, it's not happening today then, is it? There was another time not too long after that where, again, we were starting to argue because it wasn't the relationship that I wanted. We were going different. We were in different directions. He was also physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally abusive. And so on another occasion, he had started saying to me, well, if you want me to leave, then you pack my bag. And part of me was like, just pack the bag so he'll go. And the other part of me was like, this is a trick. And I said to him, if I start packing your bag, you are going to get angrier. And he got angrier anyway, went out to the kitchen and came back with a knife. And I go into these in more detail in my book, but ultimately how it happened is it just kept escalating. The arguments were becoming more intense, more frequent, and scarier. He was just becoming scarier. So I had started thinking, right, how do I plan to leave? Like, where am I going to go? How am I going to pack these kids up? I've got work, they've got school. You're trying to run through all the practicalities of actually like a separation or leaving. And a separation is, it's not great with someone who understands and you're kind of amicable or you mutually agree to separate. It is downright horrendous when one party does not want that separation at all or just refuses to leave or acknowledge it and acknowledge their own behavior and their own contributions to it. So how it all ended up finished for good was we had gone out together to the sports club that he was in, the team, to a function. Things had escalated from there. I do write about this in my book. I have written why I stayed. These are all the reasons, how I found myself in domestic violence, how I did try and leave and go back. So it started escalating after that. Went all day Sunday. On Monday, he came down to my workplace to drop off because I was working there where the kids went to school and preschool. And he had threatened me and told me that I needed to come home. I said I was at work. He then brought up stuff from that night, and I just looked at my boss and said, he's threatening to come up here. And I just thought I had to make the decision that this is domestic violence. I can't live this anymore. He's going to hurt me. And so I indicated to her that I needed the police. We locked down the school. All my children were taken to the office where it was locked down. Police were called. He came out. He was not very compassionate. But when they shuffled me into the police car, my ex-husband actually drove up to the school. So I don't know if he was just going to drive past. I don't know if he was coming there. That was really scary. So they got me down to the police station. And as I walked into the police station, my ex-husband rang me and he just started saying, because he had known by this point that the police had been called. He just started saying, now you've involved the police, you are gone. And he pretty much said to me, it would be in the book, but memory now, because it is a long time ago now, this was 2012. He said, if you had just come home, I would have hurt you, but now that you've involved the police, you are gone. And I had hit speaker and the whole police station heard him threaten to take my life and to drive my car into the lake. And that's how we got the no contact, no approach AVO. He was excluded from them coming to the home because not only did he threaten my life, but it was heard by every police officer that was in the station at the time. I made a statement, the AVO was granted, and that's ultimately how I ended up escaping 14 years after we met, with a couple of police call-outs, couple of times leaving and going back, him leaving the home and then taking him back. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And that was with 5 kids, with a mortgage. There's never ever a right time. It's never going to be a good time. But when you get to the point where you are miserable, you know that you just dread waking up every morning, and you cry yourself to sleep, and you're being hurt, and you just see no future for yourself, and you would rather not be here than keep being with this person, is when you know that you need to organize something or make some sort of a plan. But even if you make a plan, sometimes you just have to escape and then just take it one step at a time. Sometimes you just need to just look at what you have to do next. You can't look too far into the future because it's so overwhelming, but what is my next step? And try and get connected with a caseworker or support service. Police did a referral for me to the Staying Home Leaving Violence program in my area. They did come to the home, do a safety audit, and be able to give me sensor lights, change the locks, secure all my windows, electricity meter box, things like that. And they were able to refer me to counselling, legal advice. I did go and get the legal advice. I decided not to initiate family law court. He never did, so I got really lucky in that respect. Counselling I did on and off I'm still doing. I just started seeing a psychologist again now because trauma runs deep and it comes out, comes in waves. It comes in waves, but you can do this. It is possible. It's not easy. It does take time. It can take planning. It takes support. It takes lots of things, but it is possible. But we don't just leave. You can't just leave an abuser.